So the Minister for Defence today in Ireland published the naval review, pretty much you would call it the maritime review, I suppose is the right way to call it, that the Royal Navy and the French Navy would patrol Irish waters. As you know, Ireland is a neutral country, has no alignment to NATO, no alignment to any country but to ourselves. And of course, we're one of the richest countries in the world. And of course, for years, the Irish government neglected the armed forces, the Irish Defence Forces, the Navy particularly. And in the morning, they could easily, at the drop of a hat, they could easily cock up 5 billion, 6 billion, 7 billion even to fund the Navy. Because we have warships. They're sitting in port. They won't pay the people to go on to the warships. They don't, and again, the problem is in this country that the Irish government hates Ireland, hates the Irish people, first of all. They don't care about Ireland. They don't have any interest in defending the state because they pretty much don't take anything of Ireland. And as we see with Micheál Martin, the fellow at the top, the very top, on Taoiseach, the Prime Minister, he doesn't believe in the backwards looking idea of sovereignty. Now, first of all, there's many problems there when you have the top man in the country pretty much saying that sovereignty doesn't matter to Ireland, but every other country is entitled to sovereignty in his mind. But this is the problem. That's the top leadership. That's the top. They don't believe in Irish sovereignty. And basically, what's happening here, we're giving away our waters to a foreign power. We've had to fight 800 years just to say to get rid of the British, and they're still here in Northern Ireland. Of course, MI6 and MI5 never left. They're still here. But it's insulting. It's insulting to the British taxpayer and to the French taxpayer that they have to come, because it's freeloading. Let's be fair, it's utter freeloading, but it is done on a price because it is pretty much NATO warships patrolling Irish waters, and I don't know how you could really flip that as neutrality. I don't know what way you can look at it. Now they're saying that Irish officers will be on the bridge of these ships when they're in Irish waters and stuff, navigating through Irish waters. But the simple matter is, there's so many ships. We have about maybe 10 ships docked in Cork that the Irish Navy could put in the high seas if they would pay the people. Because again, at the end of the day, the Irish government have the money. They can send money to here, there and everywhere. But this is the thing. They don't care about Ireland. They couldn't give a damn about Ireland. Helen McEntee particularly doesn't care. We see her priority. She's more worried about the forces and the defence forces. You think she'd be worried about, let's protect Irish sovereignty. Let's protect Irish freedom. Let's fund the whole Navy. Let's stop this human trafficking racket. Let's smash it into the ground. But no, let's diversify the defence forces. Let's not worry about defending the state. Let's worry about doing that. Like, it's utterly insanity. And they could do this in the morning. They could easily cock up 5 billion if they wanted to tomorrow. They have so much money they don't know what to do with it. They're throwing it around like confetti. But they could easily cock up 5 billion if they wanted to for the Navy, to put all these ships in the high seas, to recruit thousands of young Irishmen, because there's so many young Irishmen who will join the Defence Forces if they pay them. Because they won't pay them. They won't pay them to serve in the Defence Forces. But it's so crucial, and I think it's an insult to the British taxpayer, and I think it's an insult to the British government and to the French government that they would have to come and freeload in Ireland. And that's what I'm ashamed too, because we should never go to the British and look for help, or the French. It's our own country, it's our own freedom. We have to fight for our own freedom. And if whatever country, if Russia or China or whatever country comes our way and threatens our freedom, we should deal with it. We have to fight for it. We have to fight for our very ideas and our freedoms. We shouldn't be going and saying somebody else, can you fight our battles for us? We didn't want that. We never wanted that. Ireland had to fight for its own freedom for 800 years. We didn't go and ask anybody else to come and fight for our freedom. Simple as that. We won't do it. Why should we? Why should we go? Why should we say to any other country? Because again, all this is about joining NATO, and the Irish government wants Ireland to join NATO. They're desperate, Ireland to join, but the Irish people don't want it because again, there'll be a huge amount of money being spent a year on defence, etc. But we can do it ourselves. We can really, really do it ourselves because we have the money. It's the fact of the matter. It'd be different if we didn't have the money. We could do it. They've done it for years. They've done it for years in the 1940s. To pretty much the modern day, they were able to do it in the 70s. Like, they had more ships on the high seas in the 70s and in the 80s, Irish warships, than they do today. Imagine that. The country literally had no money in the 70s, particularly, and in the 60s, they had no money. And I don't know how they could have a bigger navy than they do now, and have more people in the navy than they do now. It doesn't make any sense. The country had no money. Like, literally, the country had little to nothing. And nowadays we're one of the richest countries in the world and we can't even do that. But as I say, there's no will to do it. They don't care about Irish sovereignty. They hate the idea of sovereignty, of a backwards looking idea of sovereignty. And look it up, Micheál Martin said that, and he's the top man in the job. So why would the generals and the Navy advisors, the admirals in the Navy, why would they care? Because let's be fair, the top man doesn't believe in Irish sovereignty. And I don't think any of them would say, so, I didn't join the Navy to fight for anybody else's country. I didn't join the defence forces in this state to fight for somebody else's country. I didn't join it to sign this country away. I didn't join it. But none of them are willing to say it. They're all too afraid to say it, the top generals. And Helen McEntee, she should be saying the same thing as I'm saying here, because I would never have agreed to the Royal Navy, to the French Navy coming in here and patrolling Irish water. Never would have. Because again, the Irish government could simply do it in the morning and pay thousands. They could pay hundreds of millions if they wanted, hundreds of billions, to defend themselves. Get men, pay them, put them on the ships. Then that's it done, pretty much. Because to have 10 ships, they have 2 on active patrol. But if they got the 10 ships that are sitting in dock, and then get more ships, buy more ships, or build the ships, because they could well afford to build. We used to build our warships. We did actually build warships in Cork. Our own Navy warships for a while back in the 80s, as I say. But then they scrapped the ship that they built in Cork. But they could easily do it if they wanted to. They could easily construct it, because we're not talking about big heavy battleships around it. We're not talking about huge things. We're talking about frigates and a few coastal patrol ships, etc. We're not talking about fucking warships here, like big huge warships, carriers and stuff. But they can easily do it. We can easily get... I seen even the other day, the Norwegian government had ships who were decommissioning some ships that they were getting upgraded versions of the ships. The Irish government could buy them ships. There's 3 or 4 of them that decommissioning, but they're still in good conditions and stuff. But the Irish government could go to the Norwegian government in the morning and say, we're going to take these 4 ships off your hand. Instead of scrapping them, we buy them off you and put people onto them. Because they can easily do that. Because again, it wouldn't cost the state a bomb. But they simply won't. They just refuse to do it. And it's a refusal. Because for years I was spouting off this, even before the Ukrainian conflict started or anything started. I said about this, and for years it's been known that Ireland wouldn't do that. So it's not new. It's not like it turned up in the last 5 minutes. But it's criminal. It really is criminal, because the Irish government for years degraded the Navy to such a point that it's in this state. Because it's by their own degrading this. That's their own fault, the government. But again, they done it by design. It was all done by design. It wasn't all done by mistake. It was all done by design, because they don't want anything to do with Irish sovereignty, and that's the problem. It's just simply that, the problem. But I feel insulted that we have to go and look for other countries to defend us. It's insulting that the British have to defend our skies. We might as well be British colony at this stage. And we fought 800 years to get rid of the British, just to ask them to come back and defend us. What the fuck are we doing in this country if that's the state of the country? Because it's insulting. It's insulting, and it's insulting to ask that. And it's insulting to the British taxpayer that they have to fund the defence of Ireland along with their own country. And the same with the French. It's insulting to them. French taxpayer, the British person that gets up in the morning to go to work, is not going to pay for the Irish Free State to defend itself. Why should they? And the same goes for the Irish people. Why should they defend France? Why should they pay for the French defence, the British defence? What is to us? At the end of the day, you have to defend yourselves. And I say that to myself too. Whatever comes, if something did bad happen to Ireland, it's our own fault, and it's up to us to defend ourselves as Irish citizens and to fight like hell if necessary to get rid of the enemy off our shores if it did ever come to that. And we can do it. Of course we can do it. But it's the will. There's no will. There's just no will of the political leadership. There's no will of the military leadership. There's no leadership at all. It's all just fucking gobbeans. And it's a joke. But I generally don't believe this is a good option. It's simple as that. Whatever we're maybe asking for advice on how we could do this and how we can do that, fair enough, I don't mind that. But having NATO warships in Irish waters is a recipe for disaster. We shouldn't allow that. And neutrality basically goes out the window with that, pretty much. In the nicest possible way, and we shouldn't allow it. Let me know what you think. I know some people say we should, but you have to remember, freeloading's not good. I want Ireland to pay its way, so you have to pay yourself, pay for ourselves. We shouldn't be asking other countries to come defend us, because we won't go and defend them. As simple as that. We are a neutral country, we won't get involved in any conflict in any part of the world. It's people's own countries' right to defend themselves, basically. And the same as if Ireland was attacked tomorrow, I wouldn't expect any country to come to our defence. It's up to us to defend ourselves, as we did for 800 years, to fight ourselves. And that's it's ourselves alone against the world. And that's neither king nor Kaiser, neither anybody, but Ireland. That's all we owe allegiance to, just Ireland. Thank you.